occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack, Worley III.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, patriots and preppers. I'm Mack, Worley III, and this is On the Move, the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. As I've said before, this is not my show. This is your show. This is your grassroots activism movement. It's the On the Move movement. It cannot function without you, however, it is bigger than one man. I want to thank each and every one of you for your patriotism and for taking the time to get involved today. With that said, thank you very much for tuning in. Today's going to be a really interesting show for you. I think it's going to be pretty good. I've been scrambling to get everything done for today. Today's date is January 26, 2014, and we're doing something a little bit different. I usually plan the show out. Usually I'm very detailed in it, and I take a lot of hours working on this little 2-hour program that we got here. But today, I'm mostly winging it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm being honest. I'm mostly winging the show, and I'll get to why I'm winging it in a moment. But because of this, I'm gonna likely need your guys' help today. I will, appreciate it if you guys would give me a call and let me know what's on your mind. I'm also recovering from being sick this whole week. I've kind of been down and out of commission. So I really apologize ahead of time if I lose my voice or I cough or I got to get some water in the middle of a sentence or something. As far as I'm concerned, the show must go on, and I'll do my best, and I appreciate you all sticking with me through this tonight. With that said, we're going to be covering a lot of different topics today in the news that have been in the news lately. One thing that's near and dear to my heart is the upcoming gun control that's going to be happening in Washington State. At least they're going to be talking about it up at the Capitol. It's through an initiative ballot that they're talking about. It's I-594. Another thing we're going to be talking about as far as where I think we're going as a country in regards to big government and basically my predictions for what may possibly happen if these liberals have their way. Anyway, I'd also like to give my predictions for the upcoming presidential State of the Union speech and much more. Anything you guys want to talk about today is open. We'll be taking listener calls and reading emails. If you'd like to join the conversation today, please give us a call at 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at our new email address, talk@onthemoveshow.com. Again, that's talk@onthemoveshow.com. Don't forget to check us out at onthemoveshow.com, here at blogtalkradio.com/onthemoveshow, facebook.com/onthemoveshow, youtube.com/onthemoveshow, twitter.com/onthemoveshow. You can also check out our store at onthemoveshow.com by clicking the shop link on the homepage. We have hundreds of products on there, and they range from things like T-shirts to freeze-dried food to books that I personally recommend to bumper stickers and so much more. So anything you purchase on there, it's going to go to help make On the Move bigger and better. And we're just going to put that back into the broadcast. And I really appreciate your support if you go there and check that out. With that said, I'd also like to talk about, and I know I've been mentioning this over and over, we're still working out the logistics on this, but I've been in talks with Jeff Norton, and he's the Midnight Patriot, and he was on the show a couple of episodes back, 5 or 6, I think, something like that, and we discussed joining his network. He's creating a network for patriots and patriot podcasters like myself, and it's called patriotfb.com. It's a place where patriots can go and they won't be censored. So it's patriotfb.com. It's a Facebook for patriots. One thing that I find is really cool about this is that it's a place where we can go where we don't have to worry about being censored, and we can network together. This is one of the things that we really need to work on as a community, is networking. We can't just let ourselves, get apathetic and stay out of politics and stay out of forming groups and organizations, because the liberals, the progressives, they're out there forming these groups, and they're trying to constantly chip away at the rights, the liberties that we have. Now, this is something that I think that we all need to focus on as far as getting together with our local communities and starting to form our own groups of people, like-minded people, and try to think of ways that we can basically take our country back. So this is one great way, a great resource that we can use, patriotfb.com. And again, like I said, I'm working out the technical details with Jeff Norton, and I'm not quite sure when we're going to start on there, but it will be in the future, and I'm very excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll keep you guys up to date if you're looking for any information on what's going on with that. Check us out, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, and I'll post any updates I have on that. So now to why I'm kind of winging today's show. Well, today I went to a constitutional study group that I've been mentioning on the past shows. Today at 1 o'clock we had a constitutional study group, and we were basically just talking about the Constitution and trying to break it down. And we had debates on different things. You know, we had some really good debates, and if we have time during the show, I'd like to talk about some of the conversations we had at the study group today. But there were a lot of interesting conversations, and anyway, I ended up getting delayed as far as when I thought it would be over, because we were having such good conversations. I didn't want to peel out of there and miss anything. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you guys are interested, feel free to check it out. It's a great way to meet awesome people. It's here in Vancouver, and we hold it at Coffee Villa one Sunday a month. And if we have more people coming out, we'll maybe expand it to 2 Sundays, or in the middle of the week or something. But if you're looking for more information on it and you are on Facebook, check it out. It's facebook.com/groups/constitutional study group, and all the information's there. All you got to do is join the group, and I'll add you on there, and you'll get all the information you need. Like I said, I'm also making videos of every one. So if you missed any of the past ones, you want to check out the previous study sessions, well, it's on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/OnTheMoveShow, so you can check it out and get caught up, see what we've talked about, and then come to the next one, and you're all caught up with everyone else. It's like you never missed a beat. So anyway, I'll post that video from today as soon as possible. It takes a lot of time to edit 2 hours of footage. That's roughly about how long it was. So I'll get on that as soon as possible, and I'll post that on my YouTube channel. So anyway, you can feel free to call in today, like I said, and help us out by joining the conversation. All topics today are open, so give us a call and let us know what's on your mind. The number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. All right, so every week we start with the same segment, and this week is no different. The first segment of today's show is Today in History. According to Wikipedia.com, 177 years ago today, Michigan became a state. That's right. On January 26, 1837, Michigan became the 26th state to be entered into the United States. Here's some fun facts about Michigan. Michigan is the only state to consist of 2 peninsulas. What is now Michigan was first settled by the Native American tribes before being colonized by French explorers in the 17th century and becoming part of New France. After the defeat of France in the French and Indian War in 1762, the region came under British rule and was finally ceded to the newly independent United States after the British were defeated in the American Revolutionary War. The area was organized as part of a larger northern territory until 1800, when western Michigan became part of the Indiana Territory. Eventually, in 1805, the Michigan Territory was formed, which lasted until it was admitted into the Union on January 26, 1837, as the 26th state. The state of Michigan soon became an important center of industry and trade in the Great Lakes region and a popular immigrant destination. Michigan eventually became known as the Motor City because of its thriving car industry. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. One thing I'd like to mention is that Detroit, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, used to be known as the Paris of America. It had more lights on at night than any other country. Any other city in this country, which is pretty remarkable. It lit up at night, at that time. That was one sign that it was a thriving, industrialized city. It used to be compared to Paris at that time. Well, now what would be its modern-day equivalent? What would you say that it's equal to today? What would you say that it's more like in other countries? I'm not sure if I would say Paris anymore. One thing that I would say is probably pretty close to modern-day Greece, where the businesses have been so run down by the restrictive government. Now today in Detroit, employers have been run out of town due to restricted government policies. People have left the city in droves. The city's been so mismanaged and is currently in a state of disrepair. I was reading an article not too long ago, and they were talking about how there's barely any working ambulances inside Detroit. Most of the street lights don't work. I mean, there's so much, not to mention the roads that are all messed up. And this all came to place because of democratic, liberal policies, progressive policies. And let me just be clear here. The Democrats, they actually had the audacity to blame the Republicans for that. They're blaming the shortcomings in Detroit on Republicans. This to me is pretty comical, because the Democrats, they've been the one in office over there. There hasn't been a Republican in office in Detroit in decades. Liberals never own up to their own shortcomings. Let's look, for example, at Obama and all the lies about his lies that he's been telling. It's been proven that progressives have some kind of mental illness that prevents them from being able to take responsibilities for their policies. That's why they don't like it when we put their name on their programs and their policies. For example, Obamacare. Let's just take a look at Obamacare. They don't like it when you call it Obamacare. For some reason, they get all angry about it. They seem to would rather you like it be called the Affordable Care Program, even though it's the program that you can't afford and really doesn't care about it anyway. It's doubled and tripled our insurance premium costs. This program has skyrocketed the cost to be insured in this country, and it's a little ridiculous that anyone would even call it the Affordable Care Act. But anyway, when I get back from this commercial break, I'm going to play some clips in regards to what the Democrats are trying to do in regards to rebranding Obamacare. So I'll be back in a few moments with the clip from that.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. So when we last left the show, I was talking about how the Democrats, they do not like us referring to Obamacare as Obamacare. They don't like us putting a name on their programs. They really have some kind of aversion to us labeling what they're doing and letting the people know exactly what they stand for, and that they're the ones that were responsible for their policies that they put in place. I have here a clip from Nancy Pelosi talking about how she doesn't want it called Obamacare.
Number 3 Obamacare bills on the floor tomorrow in the House. Some Democrats have indicated they might be open to supporting them. How strongly are you pushing members to vote against them? And does it start to become a sign of weakening support if more Democrats start jumping?
Absolutely not. First of all, it's called the Affordable Care Act. if that's what you're referencing, they're going after the Affordable Care Act. They're saying, let's do everything we can to take away health insurance from 9 million Americans who already have it and prevent many more millions of Americans from having it. So,
do you hear the disdain in her voice, how angry she was? She's like, first of all, don't call it Obamacare. It is Obamacare. It's his program. Let's put his name on it. If it's a good program, they should have absolutely no problem with their name being on it. In fact, my name is on all the stuff that I talk about right now. It's a show that I'm on. Everybody knows my opinions. It's out there, and it's out there forever. When I have an opinion on something, you know where I stand, and it's out there. It's public record. I mean, anybody can look it up. It's on the internet. Why aren't these liberals, progressives, why aren't they kind of feeling the same way, that they don't want people to know where they actually stand, or the programs that they propped up? This is a great way. Let's label it. Let's put, if I came out with a program, call it Mack Care. I don't care. I mean, but this is what I'm talking about. They don't want to have their name on these things, because when it crashes and burns, and that's what these kind of things do. They crash and they burn, and they don't want their name to be associated with this kind of thing. That's why they're trying to push us as far away from calling it Obamacare as possible, because they know ultimately he's going to be held responsible. It's funny. At first, he tried to actually, claim that, okay, hey, you can call it Obamacare all you want. Here's a clip.
The other thing we've done is to say, what are the critical needs of small business? A lot of times, one of the biggest challenges is to make sure that you, as a sole proprietor, that you can get health insurance for you and your family.
Correct.
So when you hear about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and I don't mind the name because I really do care. That's why we passed it.
Yeah, he really cares. He cares to double and triple your health insurance premium. He cares to have you subsidize health care for people who are sicker and older than you, if you're a young person like myself. And I'm not heartless. I have absolutely no problem with people getting help. But my problem with people getting help is when it's mandated help, and on top of that, when it not only is it mandated, but I don't have a choice. These things are totally without of my control. I'm being coerced into paying more money to subsidize somebody who can't afford it because they're actually using it. Now, let's say you're in a younger demographic like myself. I'm 28 years old. It just makes sense for people like me to just take the penalty rather than pay high premiums, double and triple what it used to be, to subsidize someone else. And obviously, if I got sick or something, I could just join the program because it's already, I can't possibly be denied no matter how sick I get. So I just wait till I'm sick, pay the penalty, because it's going to be less than the program anyway. And then even if I took the premium and I tried to get the insurance and I'm paying this exorbitant amount for these premiums, the problem is that the deductible's so high. It's like $6,000 in a lot of cases. So I wouldn't even see any benefit for that. Now, let's say I only go to the doctor once or twice a year for checkups. I'm going to be paying a crazy amount more than if I just paid out of pocket for those checkups, and if I just pay the penalty. It doesn't make any sense. And I mean, I'm not talking about me specifically, but what I'm referring to is young people. This is why we see young people aren't signing up for this program. But here's my thought on it. Okay, they're trying to say don't call it Obamacare, but at first he tried to own it. He said call it Obamacare if you want. Well, here's what he also had to say about that.
Now, I know healthcare is controversial, so there's only going to be so much support we get on that on a bipartisan basis until it's working really well, and they're going to stop calling it Obamacare.
I disagree. If the program works and if it's successful, it's Obamacare. That's what it is. Let it stand on its own merit. if he's able to pull this thing off and everybody loves Obamacare and they think it's not mismanaged and messed up like every other office or program that the government has taken over, then you know what? He deserves all the credit in the world for it. It's his program. It's his baby. It's Obamacare. He's responsible for it. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think the more likely situation is that the program's going to fail. It's going to start to crumble. It's going to detrimentally cause harm to our economy. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, one thing that I find kind of funny, actually, and I have another clip here that I'll play for you, is how they're trying to basically turn people who are using the word Obamacare as racist. They're trying to say that if you use the word Obamacare, it's the same thing as using the N-word. This, to me, is so offensive. I'm just blown away. And it seems like it's just another one of those things that they do, and they're just easily trying to call people racist. It's the race card. They pull the race card when they know they have a loser. So they're like, oh, well, you know what? If you disagree with me, you must be a racist. And it totally, in my opinion, I think it totally eliminates their argument, and I think it makes them look like they don't have a case from where I'm sitting. But it is very difficult to have an argument with somebody, an actual civilized debate with somebody who they say, if you disagree with me, you're a racist. Anyway, I have a clip here from Melissa Harris Perry saying Obamacare is the same as using the N-word.
Good morning, I'm Melissa Harris Perry. I want to talk today about a controversial word. It's a word that has been with us for years. And like it or not, it's indelibly printed in the pages of American history. A word that was originally intended as a derogatory term, meant to shame and divide and demean. The word was conceived of by a group of wealthy white men who needed a way to put themselves above and apart from a black man, to render him inferior and unequal, and to diminish his accomplishments. President Obama has been labeled with this word by his opponents. And at first he rose above it, hoping that if he could just make a cause for what he'd achieved, his opponents would fail in making their label stick. But no matter how many successes that he had as president, he realized there were still many people for whom he'd never be anything more than that one disparaging word. A belief he knew was held not just by his political opponents, but also by a significant portion of the American electorate. And so he decided, if you can't beat him, you gotta join him. And he embraced the word and made it his own, sending his opposition a message they weren't expecting. If that's what you want me to be, I'll be that. Y'all know the word that I'm talking about. Obamacare. That's right, I said it and I'm not ashamed, and neither is President Obama, because he knows that of all his victories over 2 terms in office, his legacy is ultimately going to be remembered for this one single word. I mean, what do you call the president who rescues the U.S. auto industry? Obamacare. What do you call the president who finally eliminates Osama bin Laden? Obamacare. What do you call the president who ends Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Say it with me. Obamacare. Heard the one about the president who pulled us out of the greatest recession since the Great Depression? Yep, Obamacare. And what about the one, about the president who reduced drug sentencing disparities? Obamacare. Stop if you have heard this one. A group of underpaid women and the president who passed a pay equity law walk into a bar. Okay, you see where I'm going with this. Short of bringing about world peace before he leaves office, the Affordable Care Act will loom large in the president's legacy as the singular accomplishment of his 2 terms. And now, following the relaunch of a new and improved and fully operational healthcare.gov website, the president is not only owning it, but doubling down.
So they fail to come up with an actual logical reason as to why Obamacare shouldn't be called Obamacare. And because of that, they fail to do any kind of intellectual argument. They revert to what their tactics have been over and over again. They prefer that we don't deal in facts, because if we deal in facts, they lose the argument. Their facts are skewed. Everything that they do is emotionally based. They try to get people to get behind emotional causes that they don't understand, and they say, well, hey, if you don't think that people deserve to have their health care provided for them free, then not only are you a cruel and insensitive person, but you must hate hate Obama because he's black, and that makes you a racist. And if you use the word Obamacare, that makes you a racist because apparently, according to Melissa Harris Perry, it's the same as using the N-word. Why do they do this? It's because they want to totally discredit you. And it's also because they know they can't win the argument. They can't win an intellectually based argument. They have to win on emotionally based arguments because the facts just aren't on their side. The fact is that Obamacare is the biggest killer of jobs in America. Obamacare is restricting the economy. And let's talk about what Melissa Harris Perry just talked about, okay? She talks about how we rescued the U.S. auto industry. Did we rescue it? Did we really do that? I mean, we bailed it out. I know we did that. But, I don't see it really working out too well in Detroit. And who's to say that what would have happened if we didn't actually bail it out? What could have happened? All right, would all these people be out of jobs? Some people would be out of jobs. But the company would have ended up being turned over to another person. Somebody else would have ended up buying the company up and using it in that place, and maybe they would have managed it better. Maybe they would have been able to actually do better than these guys are doing, and maybe the auto industry would be better than it ever was. Because right now the auto industry still isn't really thriving as it should be. So what about Osama bin Laden? Okay, President Obama was the president that captured and killed Osama bin Laden. How do you argue with that? I mean, he did what no man could do. He made the tough call. This guy, I mean, wow. That's a tough call. He knew where Osama bin Laden was, and he decided to go get him. Would you have decided to go get him? I know I would have. I wouldn't have cared where he was. If Osama bin Laden was on the moon, that would have been my new space race. I'd have been trying to figure out how I'm going to get up to the moon to get Osama bin Laden. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, of course, if he's somewhere, you're going to go get him. It doesn't matter where he is. Everybody knows that you're going to go get Osama bin Laden. I mean, it's funny. How many times I'm saying Osama bin Laden on this program right now. This is definitely flagged by the NSA. I just want to give a shout out to all the NSA analysts right now. Hey guys, how's it going? Hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, or you can go to my website, OnTheMoveShow.com. Anyway, so let's move forward here. What about, this is a president that ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Okay. Don't ask, don't tell. Is that really something that we're really that worried about? I mean, the gay community, I know that they care about it, and it's important, I guess. But really, that makes him the greatest person in the world. Is that really something important? And let us not forget that Don't Ask, Don't Tell came from Bill Clinton, who's a Democrat, a liberal, progressive. I mean, he's been buddy-buddy with Obama for the longest time. So he basically just repealed something that was already there from liberals and progressives. So, I don't know if Don't Ask, Don't Tell was good or bad. What I do know is that it allowed gay people to still serve in the military. So, I mean, they were still there. If they wanted to, they could. So, one thing, I mean, that argument could be debated, and regardless, I don't think that makes him the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's just my personal opinion. Okay, but let's talk about him being the president that pulled us out of this recession. Does it feel like to you that we're out of a recession? I mean, think about it. Last time you went to the grocery store, look at the prices. How would that work out for you? Do you think the prices are better or worse than they were before Obama got into office? Let's look at gas. Is gas prices lower now that Obama's been in office? No, they're not. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that when Obama took office in 2008, that gas prices were somewhere between $1.70 and $2 a gallon. Can you imagine if they were at $1.70 or $2 a gallon right now? I mean, I'd be filling up buckets. I'd be out there, trying to get as much of this stuff as possible because that's insane. Right now, I'm used to seeing almost $4 everywhere I go. Out here, I think the last time I bought gas, it was like $3.29, $3.30 or something like that. So, and depending on where you are, like places like California, oh my goodness, those guys have been paying like $4 a gallon since the 80s. It's unbelievable to me that people can actually say that this president pulled us out of a recession. We got the recent job report from last year, December. It was horrible job numbers. We were predicted to get over 200,000 jobs created for the month of December, and we only got 74,000 jobs that were created. Does that feel like we're out of a recession? And let's talk about the unemployment rate. Unemployment rate is currently hovering around 6%. And they're saying that it's dropping. So, President Obama, he's responsible. This is what's going on. Do you really believe that? What's going on right now is that people are dropping out of the workforce, and they've given up. They've been on unemployment so long that not only do they not qualify for it anymore, but they've given up. They've stopped looking for jobs because there's no jobs out there. Over 90 million Americans right now are without work. And like I said last show, 90 million Americans are without work right now. 1 in 5 American males are currently not working. There's only 330 million Americans in this country, and 90 million of those are not working. That's almost 30% of Americans. So, and we talk about sentencing drug disparities, drug sentencing disparities that he supposedly corrected. Well, Obama is able to selectively enforce whatever laws that he wants. So even if he made all drugs legal and he stopped the prohibition on that, do you really think that he would abide by that? I don't believe that any law on the books is a law that Obama respects or will follow. I just don't have any faith in Obama. I don't have any faith in his word. We've already seen him lie on record saying that if you like your health care, your current insurance, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. Period. To me, I'm not going to be singing the praises of somebody who lies to me like that. He's already been named the biggest liar in last year by I can't remember whoever does those Pinocchio awards, but he got the total number of Pinocchios that you can possibly ask. And as far as I'm concerned, he's given the biggest lie in the history of our country. Why not give this man his due? He created Obamacare. It's his program. It's his baby. Let it be named Obamacare. And that way we know that it was his. And our kids remember, and our kids' kids remember that Obama is the one that was responsible for this lovely healthcare system that destroyed 1/6 of our economy. And it ended up collapsing under its own weight, and they put it in single payer because that's what they're going to do. They're going to put it in single payer, and this program will never go away unless we fight to defund it, which I don't know if we can get the cowards and statists up in Washington to actually do. But I'll tell you, that's the only way we're ever going to see the end of Obamacare. Anyway, at this time, we're going to continue more on some of the stuff when I get back, but we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and I will be back in about a minute and 30 seconds.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
All right, we're back. If you'd like to join today's show, if you'd like to join the conversation today, please give us a call. The phone number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Like I said, today we're kind of winging this program, so if you want give us a call. The floor is open. We are having open topics. You don't have to talk about what I'm talking about, but just let me know, and I'll let you have the floor for a few minutes at least. So, alrighty. Another thing I'd like to talk about, obviously, here, we were talking about Obamacare and how these liberals, these progressives, they do not like us labeling them, their programs with their names, like Obamacare being called Obamacare. They would prefer us to call it the Affordable Care Program. But, again, let's give them their due. If the program is successful, let's continue to call it Obamacare. But when it fails, as it inevitably will, because every government program is mismanaged. Just look at the post office. Let's look at the Department of Education, the Environmental Protection Agency, just to name a few. These programs end up having so much fraud, waste, and abuse in them that they end up, being a big suck for their the money. They just suck all the money into them. And as we all know, that the government does not, collect taxes to pay for the programs that they have. They find ways to spend the money based on the taxes that they have. And I'll give you some personal stuff that I've seen when I was in the military. When every year, if you're not familiar with the budget system inside the government and the military, from my personal experience, this is what I know, every year in October, we all look and like, okay, it's the end of the fiscal year, so we need to find things to buy right now because we have some leftover money from the things that we were allocated. We were allocated a certain amount of money at the beginning of the fiscal year, and now it's the end, and we need to buy stuff because if we don't spend this money, then we won't get as much next year. They're going to realize, hey, we don't need as much. So we need to spend it. We need to spend it all, every last dime, and then we need to ask for even more money this year because, we want more money. It's obvious, we need more money. Even though we didn't spend it all throughout the year, we rationed it. That's their rationality, is they're saying that they rationed it, and then they get these big expenditures at the end of the year. I'll tell you, my personal experience from what I've seen, so much fraud, waste, and abuse in the system. The squadron that I worked at when I was in the military, at the end of the year, they would have like a desperately wanting or desperate need list, and everybody would supply their things that they desperately needed. Okay, boom, they'd fund everything on that desperately needed list. Then they'd have things that you kind of need list. Okay, boom, they'd fund everything on the kind of need list. And then they'd have things that you could, it'd be nice to have. All right, here you go. And then it's just like wish lists of things, like crazy things like cappuccino machines and stuff like that that people would send in there. And then after everything on the list, all these lists are bought, then what they would do is they would buy big screen plasma TVs with the rest of the money. They would, and the attic would be, full of big screen TVs, or they'd put them on every freaking wall that they could fit a TV on, and they'd put like a slideshow, like, hey, here's where you go for this office or whatever. So they created TVs to do something that a simple sign would accomplish. This is the fraud, waste, and abuse that we see within our government. It cracks me up that people even think that the government needs this kind of money. We need to cut spending across the board, and believe me, from my personal experience, and I'm not saying in every department this applies, but in a lot of departments in the military, they could use major cuts. It's just my opinion, but I have seen it firsthand. People who are just spending money because they have it. That's the only reason. They could go without, and they could ration their money better. But why? Because if there's no incentive to do it. If they do try to actually, plan and budget and get the things that they need and only the things that they absolutely need, they're actually punished at the end of the year because they're not going to get as much money. So I think, the only way to really fix that would be to itemize the way that we fund the government and make them justify each individual way or each individual item that they need, and have somebody scrutinize the budgets. I think that'd be one really awesome way to do it. But again, I don't know the logistics that will go on that, and it may end up costing more money to do that, and so on and so forth. But what I do know is that the programs right now aren't working, and they're putting us crazy in debt. And it's not just the military; it's every branch of government. There's some branches that could totally just be gone. Like, for example, in my opinion, the Environmental Protection Agency could go. The Department of Education could go. These things are really, really hurting our country. And I won't get into why right now, but feel free to look up, and come up with your own opinions. But anyway, right now, people are voting with their feet in Detroit. People are leaving in droves, and they've left, and the population has severely been dwindled. This is what we originally got into. This is the whole reason why we're talking about this right now, is because I mentioned Detroit. Remember? It was a while ago I was talking about Detroit. But anyway, like I said, Michigan, they've had some really liberal policies, and these policies have been failing, and they're hurting the city, they're hurting the economy, and they're driving away businesses, which is taking away employers for people to get a job. There's no jobs in Detroit anymore. So, as far as I'm concerned, New York's going to be the next one to fail like that. We're going to see Mayor de Blasio just totally drive that city into the ground. And like I said, it's going to be kind of amusing for people like me who aren't there. And I really do feel, don't get me wrong, I feel for people that are there and they're going to feel the effects of this, but it's your fault. I mean, honestly, if you're there right now and you've not organized and you've not created groups and you've not tried to do anything, and you just, keep electing the same liberals and progressives into office and voting for them just because they're Democrats, it is your fault. The things that you're about to get. You get the government you deserve. All right, and I'm sorry for all you conservatives out there. And by the way, let's mention the fact that Governor Cuomo just said that conservatives, and this is Governor Cuomo is the governor of New York. He just said that conservatives have no place in New York. I'll talk more about this later, but my prediction is that New York will end up exactly like Detroit, and people will vote with their feet, and they'll leave the state after these liberal policies fail. My only hope is that they don't leave these liberal places to go somewhere else that doesn't have these policies and then make the same kind of voting choices that they made in the past and end up putting more liberals and progressives in office to ruin more places. Anyway, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about it. Give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. Again, that is talk@onthemoveshow.com. All right, at this point, we're going to take another quick commercial break, and I will be right back in about 1:30.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. When we last left the show, we were talking about fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. Before I move on here, I would like to actually bring a guest onto the show. It's the voice of reason. He's been on the show in the past, and he has some personal experience with government fraud, waste, and abuse. And the voice of reason, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Feel free. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, I forget the year, I did a two-year stint working with the Army Corps of Engineers, doing environmental reclamation projects. And the way they worked was that they took their budget, they took their pot of money, and they divided it into a number of projects, and they were going to run those projects for the year. So when I got to start the project, the budget for it would be given to me. And I did not estimate these projects and send them the estimate. So for 2 years, I only completed one project because all of them were underestimated. And when it seemed like it came to a point where I had to ask for more funds to take from one project so I could finish something else, they said no. And the reason was they wanted to start each one so that it looked like they were doing something. It was easier to say that we couldn't finish it than it was to say that we couldn't start it. No. So instead of moving funds around, like I said, they just shorted everything, and I only finished one project in 2 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
I remember one project in particular where I got out to a site, and the site had been covered up. So what happened was I was given a map. I was supposed to work on a particular place. That place had been demolished. It was me, some contractors like drillers and excavators, and 2 of their supervisors. Why they needed 2 supervisors, I don't know, but they were there. So I'm looking at the map, and I can't find where I am, and I'm asking them to help me. And one of them said, well, I'm just here to supervise. So we're not going to get this job started because I don't know where it is. And the other guy had a little sense, and he said, yeah, let's figure this out. I guess he was new. Actually, he was new. So we actually worked together and figured out where this was supposed to be. And a guy comes down the road in the truck, and he sees us walking around back and forth, and he says, oh, yeah, there used to be a barn there and an underground storage tank over there. And if it wasn't for that guy in the truck, we would have wasted the whole first day. We got the job going, and we couldn't finish it because there was groundwater coming from somewhere. And every night, for the last 3 nights, I had to figure out how much I spent, how much was left over, and how long I could work before we had to pack up and go home. And meanwhile, I was calling the company that I work for, asking the boss to talk to them to shift some money around. And this was a big excavation site. Well, after a couple days, they said no. And so I had to fill up a hole that must have been, it was shallow. It was only about 6 feet, but it was about 50 feet by 50 feet. That's a lot of dirt to move around.
Mm-hmm.
And then put flags on it and leave. I have no idea what happened to it.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I have so many stories of where they were doing the budget every year. I mean, I don't know how many times you saw it or if you had to deal with the yearly fiscal year ending and beginning anew. All the times that it happened
they never involved us in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was actually involved in. I remember they would come around and be like, "Hey, what do you guys need? What do you guys need?" I worked in the armory for a good period of time in the military, and they'd be like, "What do you guys need?" I'm like, "Well, hey, we need these things for the weapons racks." And then they would come back, "Okay, we got that. What else you need?" "Well, we need these mounts for the laser aiming devices." "Okay, all right, we got that." But then after a while, they're like, what would you like? And I'm just like, well, it'd be nice to have, I don't know. There's some things that we just made up on the spot, Some of the outlandish requests that people got, obviously people don't get, like, I know somebody in the shop made a request for a cappuccino maker or something like that, and we ended up not getting that. But I do know, I've personally seen all these big screen TVs mounted on the wall. They're spending thousands of dollars because, as you know, the government doesn't just, spend to find the cheapest deal. There's all these political kickbacks of, they'll use this company because they donated to this campaign fund, so now these contractors get these deals. So we're paying like $10,000 for a big screen TV that costs, $2,000. So
yeah, and as you said before, this is the way government grows, by even adding on to the budget those things that you don't really need.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows that the budget was larger the next year, and therefore you need a certain percent more. I'd like to give you one more example.
Okay.
If I can.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I did one job at, I think it was Fort Lewis. Got the map. It says, here's an underground storage tank, dig it up. Now, I had to go through a week's course on quality control and project management that I had to pass in order to work for them as a consultant. And quality control was one of their big things. So what happened was the map that they gave me was wrong. Mm-hmm. And I asked about, I went over to the office and I said, there's something wrong with this map. It's not right. We're digging into a street when we should be digging into dirt. And the two project managers said, no, you're right. This map is right. So we kept on digging, and we got to a street grading, an oil-water separator. I went inside the nearest building and asked, is this supposed to be out here? Where's the underground storage tank where I'm supposed to be? And they said, no, there's not one here. So I finally, after begging for a whole day, the two project managers who were maybe 2 years out of college came by, looked at the map, looked at where I was, and they said, oh, it's over there. Go ahead. And they took off.
Wow.
So I told them that I'm charging you for this, and and after all that quality control that I'm supposed to go through, it was just a flippant episode of government workers not apologizing for anything, and I never finished that job because the money ran out.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, as far as I'm concerned, and this goes back to what I was talking about with Obamacare, you know, people need to take responsibility for what's going on. We need to hold people accountable. If people are mismanaging funds, if programs are not successful and not working the way they should, we should label it. We should make sure that people are taking responsibility for it and held accountable. Now, this goes both ways. You know, if you actually are successful, then you need to get the praise that you deserve. In my opinion, if Obamacare is successful, that's awesome. If it works out, that's amazing. I want our country to be a success, but I don't see it happening, and we've seen over and over how socialized medicine only hurts us. So,
well, especially socialized medicine, where 1/3 of the funds flying around is going to end up in the pockets of the health insurance companies, where in Europe, at least they have the same plan, but at least the health insurance companies aren't raking off profits.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's another thing too, though, is that you're going to hear people talking about how, you know, socialized medicine is great, but the problem is right now is these evil insurance companies. I disagree. I think that it should all be open. I think that the insurance companies, you know, that's the free market. If it's a good product, people are going to buy it. I don't need the government mandating me to buy a product and telling me what's the best thing out there. You know, if I don't want to have health insurance, then I'm not going to have health insurance. That's part of my freedom.
Well, that's true. I think maybe there should be a government option, which is the real single payer, and then
I'm terrified of the single
companies,
payer.
But when the health insurance companies basically write Obamacare, so they write themselves into every plan, that's something that I don't like.
Well, the thing that I don't like is that this program is unsustainable. I mean, it's
right.
just not going to work. That we know that it's going to end up crumbling. And the problem is, and I don't think that the insurance companies, they're not to blame in this. This program wasn't solely written by the insurance companies, by the way. This program is basically being used and manipulated right now to basically put these insurance companies out of business. The whole goal, end game, is that the insurance companies will not be able to keep their doors open with these unsustainable regulations that they now have to do. They'll go out of business. Single payer will walk right in, the government will take over everything, and we'll never, ever get rid of this program. There's absolutely no way. Look at Medicare, look at Social Security. These programs are totally mismanaged. There's so much fraud, waste, and abuse inside these things, and yet it's going to be so impossible to get rid of these things. I mean, I guess we could do it, but I mean, it's going to take a ridiculous amount of public support and outrage, and I just don't see it happening because the amount of people who'd be outraged if you try to take it away from them. So
what do you think is the ideal health care plan for this country?
free markets. I mean, the way I look at it, we need to equalize the tax code. Make it so Joe Schmo is paying the same kind of percentage, same lot as the multi-million-dollar corporations. It's really ridiculous that these companies, these billion-dollar companies, are getting not only tax breaks to where they don't pay anything, but they're getting subsidies. We end up, I think, 2 years ago we paid $500 million to Facebook. This company is taxpayer money. This company is making millions and millions and billions of dollars, and we're subsidizing them, and they're not paying taxes. But yet, I got to pay taxes. You got to pay taxes.
Corporations get away with nothing. People who have passive income off of stocks and bonds, they get taxed at 15%. And then if you actually work, then it's, 25, 30%?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And all the hidden taxes that they have. My thought process, first of all, is we need to balance the books, obviously. We need to establish a budget and stick to it and pay off our debt, not spend more. And there's a lot of plans out there. One of them that I kind of believe in is the penny plan. Feel free to look it up, but you basically take 1 penny out of every dollar we spend, and we can balance our budget and get our country on track. There's a little more detail to the plan, but Google it. Put in Google, penny plan, and there's a whole bunch of information on that. And I think that would work. But as far as a healthcare system, if these programs, if this product, because that's what Obamacare is, it's a product. Okay, so let's look at it in simple terms. Okay, let's say it was a car. All right.
Okay.
If this car was really that amazing. Okay, if it was the best car out on the market, and I should buy it because it's that good. I don't need somebody to mandate me to buy that car. It's the best car on the market. So obviously I'm going to, gravitate, and people are going to gravitate toward buying the best product on the market. The problem is that these programs through socialized medicine, they're crap. They destroy. They don't create anything. They destroy and they take over, and people don't want them. That's why if you gave people an option to do it, they wouldn't do it. And who my age, what 20-year-old would prefer, as opposed to what we were able to do, to pay for our health insurance and choose what company we want and shop around? What 20-year-old would prefer to pay double or triple their health care costs and have a $6,000 deductible that they'll never reach if they're not sick? And then on top of which, they're already exempt from being disqualified because they have to accept anything. So what 20-year-old is going to sign up for Obamacare? I mean, the ones that do are, as the Marxists call them, useful idiots, because they don't have any idea what they're doing. They're going to pay.
Well, they might be the ones who are scared of fines or things like that.
Well, even still, all right, if I'm paying double or triple what it would cost me in the past, okay, they may be scared of fines, and I understand what you're saying, but they may be ignorant to the fact that it's going to be less money to actually not get the insurance and just pay the fine and cover your own health care costs when you go in there, because they can't, first of all, they can't deny you, all right? It's going to cost you double and triple what it used to be for your health care premium. So that right there, just the double and triple premiums, that is going to be more money than you'll spend if you're not sick and you just go in for your 1 or 2 times per year checkups or whatever. That's going to be more money than just paying for that out of pocket and the penalty combined. But then on top of which, we have the actual oh man, I'm brain dropping it right now. Anyway,
well, on top of it, we have businesses laying off people or putting them on shorter hours so that they don't have to provide health care for them. So a lot of people are losing their benefits.
Oh, absolutely. We got people now that are out of work because of Obamacare. It's the biggest killer of jobs in America. We got people that have been moved from full-time positions to part-time, which now makes them underemployed and uninsured. So it's actually taken away the health insurance from people who had it before. Obama's already said if you like your health care plan, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. I mean, that's a lie, and he's already somewhat, apologized about that. But I don't know if you could really call that an apology.
I don't trust anything he says.
Absolutely, me either. But hey, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break. If you want to stay on, you're more than welcome. What do you think? I'm
actually done. I have to get out of here. So
okay. Well, I appreciate you calling in. Oh, no worries. I appreciate it. Everybody, that was the voice of reason. And are you going to be on the show next week still?
I am putting something together on the on a monetary system again, but I'll talk about different things than I did before.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. See you next
All right,
week.
Have a good one. See ya. All right, everybody, that was the voice of reason. Again, he's going to be on the show next week. If you guys are interested, tune in, and he'll have a lot more to say about the monetary system and our finance system we have right now. At this point, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in about 1:30.
Support On the Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. When we last left the show, we were talking about Obamacare. If you would like to tune in or to give us your take on things today, give us a call. The phone number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that is 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. All right, so at this point, I would like to discuss something that's on my mind right now. And we're going to go ahead and start the next segment of the show. We're calling it the Mack attack. If I can find the clip here for it. Give me 1 second here. There we go.
It's time for the Mack attack!
All right, this is a segment of the show where I give you my take on outrageous events in the news, and this will actually lead us to another segment. On Tuesday, January 28th, 2014, there will be a hearing on I-594 in Olympia, Washington. This is a legislative action alert. All right, we need everybody to show up and say no to gun control. Again, that is this Tuesday, January 28th at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Judiciary Committee will be having this hearing in Room A of the John L. O'Brien building. If you can't go, and if you can, please try to make it. If you can't make it to this event, what I'd like you guys to do is try to get someone else to go. Okay? If I understand if you can't make it, and I can't make it myself. I have to work. I have a job full-time throughout the week. That's why I do a weekend podcast and only one day, because I have a full-time job. So I can't afford to take the day off, and I don't have any vacation days that I can use. So unfortunately, I won't be able to make it there either. But what I'm trying to do is get more people to go. So do what I'm doing. Try to get more people to go. And that leads us to our next segment of the show. And we're going to continue on with the Mack attack here in a moment. But that leads us to the next segment of the show.
I challenge you to a duel. Did you hear that? Sounds like it's time for a challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge.
All right, it's a listener challenge. I challenge you. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to get at least 2 people to go to the hearing in Olympia. I-94 is a gun control bill. It's 18 pages of confusing legalese meant to prevent law-abiding citizens from being able to purchase, sell, or trade firearms without having to go through a licensed FFL and getting a background check. This means that if you wanted to allow a friend to shoot one of your guns at the range with you, you would have to first be required to have them get a background check on your friend before transferring, and I'm using quotey fingers on that word, transferring the firearm. This will do nothing at all to prevent guns from getting in the hands of criminals. Why would a criminal who just stole a weapon and is now selling to another criminal for use in a crime obey a law that requires them to get a background check before transferring that firearm? Liberals can't answer this argument. They have no answer. The bottom line is that criminals, by their very definition, do not follow laws. A new law restricting the buying, selling, or trading of firearms will only be ignored by these criminals, just like they ignore the current laws that are on the books. That's why they're criminals, because they ignore the laws. The only people that this will actually prevent from bearing arms will be the law-abiding citizens. Of course, that is the plan. They want to take your guns away. They want to take away your ability to defend yourself. If we're up to the liberals, Democrats, progressives, socialists, Marxists, whatever they're calling themselves today, they would take them all. How do I know that? Am I some kind of psychic? Am I able to predict the future? No, I am not. I am just a man who listens to what these people say. They speak, I listen. I take people for their word. If somebody says that they're going to take away all my guns, I believe them. And here's my proof.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
That was Dianne Feinstein. She's a congresswoman from California, and she has proven time and time again that she will always and never reluctantly end up on the wrong side of history. She loves throwing herself into the controversy and trying to put herself in positions to take away your rights and your freedoms and to create a big government, a big nanny state that will tell you what's best for you because you are just far too stupid to make up your own mind. You are not able to even wipe your own bottom without the government helping you. So, with that in mind, talk to people, get them to go to this gun rally up in Tuesday. Even if you are showing, bring 2 people with you. Okay, I-594 is going to basically change the way that we can own and have our guns inside the state of Washington. If I could be there, I absolutely would, but unfortunately I can't. And when you do this, let me know. Let me know how many people you managed to bring with you. You know, and if also post on my Facebook page, okay, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, or you can email me at talk@OnTheMoveShow.com. And if you need help coordinating a ride, if you want to go but you don't have a ride, if you're in the Vancouver area, I could probably help you out and find somebody to hook you up with. That's part of this. Everything is networking. So if you desperately want to go and you don't have a way to get up there, contact me, talk@OnTheMoveShow, and I will help you. If you're going and you would like to offer a ride to anyone, please contact me, talk@OnTheMoveShow.com. Or you guys can call in today, and we can talk some more about this. The phone number is 619-924-0986. Again, 619-924-0986. So, okay, so basically, one thing about this rally that is actually going on that I'd really like to mention, and I find it quite, ironic that this is being asked of us here, is they were actually talking about trying to have us, people that are going to this event, not open carry. It's a gun event. It's a gun debate that's going to be held up here, basically. And according to what I've been able to find from Facebook, the committee chair from this hearing has requested that people not open carry weapons at this hearing. And the legislative lobbyist for our side, Joe Walden, has endorsed this request. So, first of all, what's your thoughts on this? Should people not carry? Should people not assert their rights up there? I mean, what's the point of trying to fight for our rights if we're not going to use them? As far as I know, we can't be punitively punished for doing something that we have not only a constitutional right, but a human right to do. Why in the world would it ever hurt us to carry a firearm? Why would somebody tell us that they don't want us to carry a firearm, and why should we listen to them in the first place? You know, in my personal opinion, and I've said this about Starbucks, okay, there's no difference from somebody telling you not to carry a firearm than somebody saying, you know what, it makes me feel uncomfortable, because this is what their reasons for you not carrying a firearm. They say it makes people feel uncomfortable, okay? Well, there's no difference than people saying that it makes me feel uncomfortable when you're in that wheelchair. I know it's your right to be in that wheelchair, and I'm not going to discriminate against you because that would be illegal, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. So if you could leave that at home and just crawl, you know, into the building, that would make me a lot more comfortable. I'd feel a lot more, because it's awkward being around a person in a wheelchair. I know it's your right, you know. That's so wrong. And by the way, I'm not disparaging anybody in a wheelchair. I have nothing but respect for people who, you know, with disabilities. I'm not going into that. But what I am saying is that that's your right. I mean, you have a right to have a wheelchair. I mean, you have a right. You have a human right to carry a gun to defend yourself. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how people feel. I mean, the whole point of this rally up there is to get people aware. Why would we not bring guns to a gun rally? Why would we not bring guns to an issue about guns? I think that this is something that's a little bit ridiculous. And as far as I'm concerned, if I was going, I'd be open carrying. That's just me. And, you know, you're allowed. So not only are you allowed, but you have a right to. There are no laws against it. And even if there were, they would be unjust laws. And if there is a law that's unjust, you have not only a right to disobey that law, but you have a duty to disobey that law. And that's Thomas Jefferson. I kind of paraphrase that roughly. But anyway, here, I'll read off some of the posts that were on this forum here, basically this event for the rally up in Olympia. Anyway, one person said, okay, I had to think about this one for a bit and finally came to a decision. What it boils down to is this: the idea that by exercising a right, we endanger keeping that right is absurd. Either the right is one that we are free to exercise, or the right is one that we don't really have. If by exercising it we endanger it, then we really have it then we don't really have it in the first place. At most, we are under the illusion of it. These folks that may be victims are not likely to be any more affected or alarmed by my carrying there as if I were elsewhere, which they will if they see me anywhere else. Anyway, I agree with that. I mean, we have this facade that, you know, we have these rights, but they tell us don't do it. It makes people uncomfortable, and we go along with it. Why in the world do we go along with it? There's so many statists on here, and I'm looking, no offense to you guys, but I mean, really, you're trying to fight for a cause right now, and you're saying it's okay not to bring your gun to that cause. I mean, you're kind of hurting the cause. It's kind of like the argument between open carry and concealed carry. Now, I'm a fan of concealed carry. I think everybody has a right to do it. I'm also a fan of open carry. I think everyone has a right to do it. I think it doesn't matter what the government says. You have a right to be armed. You have a right to bear arms. And it doesn't matter what they say. That's a natural right. I have a right to defense. I can defend myself. I can defend my country. You know, I can use this firearm to protect my property, my life, my family. Who is the government to tell me that I can't? But anyway, it's as far as the people that are saying, well, you know, there's a time and a place to carry a gun. There's really a time and a place to assert your right. There's a time and a place to do something that you have a right to do. Would you say that there's a time and a place to practice your religion? You know, no, there is no time and place to practice your religion. Every time, every place, you have the right to practice your religion. Every time and place, you have a right to bear arms. It doesn't matter what building you walk into, what state line you cross, that right is inherent, and it will always be there, whether or not a piece of paper says it's legal, whether or not they pass laws against it, whether or not tyrants attempt to take those rights away from you, you will still have those rights. Anyway, at this point, we're going to take another quick break. I'll be right back in about a minute 30.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. I appreciate you all sticking with us. The phone number to the show today is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. Are you one of those people that are really kind of nervous to talk on the air? I know I am. I actually get nervous before every single show, believe it or not. But you know, if you don't want to be live on the air and you're kind of shy about that, I totally get it. Send us an email. If you have anything to say, if you want us to keep your name and information private, I will. Just put it in the email, and I will not read your name. But send us an email, talk@onthemoveshow.com. I want to know what you guys have to say. I love this involvement that I get with you guys. And when you guys call in, I think it just makes the show that much better. So, again, we got 43 minutes of the show, and this is your show. So the show will be what you guys make it, and it doesn't matter what I have here to talk about. If you guys want to talk about something else, let me know. Anyway, at this time, it's time for my favorite part of the show. It's a part of the show that I use every week, and it's called The Weekly Defender. Give me 1 second to find the clip again. I'm sorry. Here we go.
And now it's time for The Weekly Defender. You have the right to defend your life, the right to defend your family, and the right to defend your freedom.
All right. Our first Weekly Defender is from right here in Washington State in the Olympian. That's where I found them. I believe that's a newspaper, the Olympian. Anyway, a 63-year-old homeowner and his wife had just returned to their home in Olympia, Washington, when the couple heard suspicious noises coming from the second floor of their house. The homeowner retrieved a handgun and went to investigate, and happened upon an intruder who attempted to attack him. The homeowner responded by firing at the intruder, which struck him in the leg, and that actually ended the confrontation. Following the shooting, the criminal was taken to a local hospital where his wounds were described as non-life-threatening. Police have no intent to charge the homeowner, with Thurston County Sheriff Sergeant Ken Clark stating the suspect is the one who escalated the incident beyond what initially started. And again, this was published in the Olympian in Olympia, Washington on the 21st of January, 2014. Anyway, again, this is a segment of the show that we report about armed citizens in the news who've used their firearms to defend their family, their property, and or themselves. Our next Weekly Defender we found from KHOU in Houston, Texas. A man was at his home in Houston, Texas, when he heard an intruder attempting to gain access to his house by using a piece of concrete to smash a front window. When the resident became aware of the attempted intrusion, he retrieved a gun and fired at the criminal, striking him in the stomach. When the wounded home invader tried to pursue the resident, the homeowner fired at the criminal a second time, striking him in the hand and ending the intrusion. I love hearing about how law-abiding citizens use firearms to protect themselves. You have a right to defend your life, you have a right to defend your family, and you have a right to defend your freedom. We at On the Move, we support your rights. If you have a story about how you lawfully defended yourself, or would like to comment on one of these stories, we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call at 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at OnTheMoveShow.com. Or I'm sorry, talk at OnTheMoveShow.com. There we go. Anyway, so we're moving back into the Mack attack. I know I've kind of been off kilter here, and again, this is one of those shows that we are kind of winging, and we're doing things kind of out of order than what you may remember and expect from the show. I know you guys know how I usually play certain clips in a certain order every time. I kind of messed it up when I put the listener challenge all the way at the beginning in the first hour, but hey, I think it's important. I think people need to get out there and become more active, and what better issue to take up against gun control? Anyway, so again, the Mack Attack is a segment of the show where I give you outrageous events in the news. If you'd like to tune in on the conversation here with and give us your take on things, the phone number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@OnTheMoveShow. Anyway, I have here a clip from Fox News from what I was talking about before. I'd like to talk about Governor Cuomo's recent comments about how conservatives have no place in New York, and I would like to play that clip. Again, like I said, I think it's from Fox News. So anyway, here it is.
Are they these extreme conservatives who are right to life, pro-assault weapon, anti-gay? Is that who they are? Because if that's who they are, and if they are the extreme conservatives, they have no place in the state of New York. Because that's not who New Yorkers are.
Strong words from New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and the state GOP chairman wants an apology for those.
The governor's office, though, saying that he has nothing to apologize for because his words were, quote, distorted. What about this? David Webb, host of the David Webb Show on SiriusXM's Patriot Channel, also a Fox News contributor, and Kirsten Powers, columnist for the Daily Beast and a Fox News contributor as well. How are the two of you doing today?
Stand warm, Bill.
I bet you are. David, I know where you stand on this. Kirsten, where are you on this? Should Cuomo apologize, or is this what he thinks?
Well, if you go back a little bit earlier in the quote, he's talking about Republican Party candidates. I think that's very clear. The question is, does he really think that it's extreme for people to be pro-life? And I think that while New York City is a very liberal part of New York, a lot of upstate New York is actually fairly conservative. So, if he's going to describe, right-to-life people as extreme conservatives, I think that is perhaps something that could stand a little more explanation, because I don't consider that to be extremely conservative. Half the country
I didn't hear the word
is
apology. Would you expect that or not from him?
I don't know if he needs to apologize. I think he just needs to explain what he meant. I mean, I think he was clearly talking about candidates. I don't think he was talking about all conservatives, but it is interesting to know, what does that mean? You think it's extreme conservative just to hold some positions that half the country holds?
David, the governor's office did try to clarify what he meant by extreme conservatives, and yes, they do say that he was just talking about elected people running for office. So here is what the governor's office had to say. Let's try to put it up on the screen for everyone. Basically, what he said, it's clear that the governor was making the observation that an extreme right candidate cannot win statewide because this is a politically moderate state, either moderate Republican or moderate Democratic. They also went on to try to clarify, his lawyer went on to try to clarify the remark by saying an extremist agenda is not politically viable statewide. David, your response to their clarification?
Well, I mean, frankly, the clarification is typically what they do after the governor's spoken his chosen words. And whether it's people clinging to their Bibles and their guns or being pro-life or anti-gay marriage. These are all issues which Americans across the board have debated for years. What Governor Cuomo did here was typically the playbook of the progressives. Let's paint this broad brush, whether you want to call it candidates or people. It's a broad brush. And then you have this fake retraction. Well, who cares about his apology? I understand that, Ed Cox, the chairman of the GOP, calls for an apology, as so should other people in the state. But let's look at the policies and what he's really doing in the state.
What Ed Cox told us yesterday on this program is that if you don't get an apology, he believes that's what the governor thinks and feels. And how many people voted for Governor Romney in New York State in 2012?
About 1/3 of New Yorkers voted for Governor Romney, so apparently Governor Cuomo, who, by the way, in a free country, can't decide where Americans live by their beliefs. What we have here is a typical playbook for Governor Cuomo. The New York SAFE Act after the Newtown tragedy. He is simply playing to his base. He's got $33 million plus in the bank. He wants to run for the president. And Bill de Blasio, in fact, in New York City, which is really the anchor because of population, he is the new hero for the progressives, and Cuomo's playing his political cards.
Kirsten, I hear you sighing.
Yeah. I just don't think that's what he said. I think if it's being distorted by conservatives saying that he was saying that anybody who believes this shouldn't live in New York State. That's not what he said. He quite clearly was talking about Republican Party candidates and whether or not he thought that they would be
based on their beliefs.
He was talking in that context about candidates, but do you think, Kirsten, that being pro-gun rights and being anti-gay marriage, does that make somebody an extreme candidate?
Well, that's not what he said. He said anti-gay. I do consider anti-gay people to be extremists. And he said and pro-assault weapons. And yeah, I do consider being pro-assault weapons to be a somewhat extremist position. I also have to say, I worked for Andrew Cuomo actually on his first governor's race, and I've never thought of him as a particularly somebody who plays from the progressive playbook. I think he's somebody who's actually been much more broad-based in terms of how he leads and how he's run for office. He's not Bill de Blasio.
Okay, so he's supposed to be more moderate guy, apparently. So anyway, I ended that clip a little short there, but as far as Governor Cuomo, I listen to people's words, like I said, and I take them at face value. And if they say conservatives are not welcome in New York, then I assume that that's what they mean, and I don't assume that they're talking about candidates or anything like that. So. They say that conservatives are not welcome in New York, and you're going to see conservatives leaving New York because, obviously, if you're not wanted somewhere, why would you stay? And then on top of that, the liberal policies are going to continue to force people out of New York, and you're going to see this city just go down the drain. Mayor de Blasio of New York is going to ruin the city, push employers out, create basically a situation very similar to Detroit, and we're going to see this happening. It's a cycle of these liberal progressive policies that continue to fail over and over and over again. Anyway, I have here a guest that I'm bringing on the show. His name is Rick Halley, and he would like to talk about I-594. Are you there, Rick?
I am here.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
How are you doing, Mack?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, no problem.
So what's on your mind?
Hey, I thought I'd make a plug out there for everyone that's looking at I-594 here in Washington. It's in my opinion, a draconian, a very poorly written law that pushes further restrictions on law-abiding citizens that are not going to actually affect the criminal element, because the criminal elements, they don't pay attention to the law. They just ignore the law.
Absolutely.
Much of, if anyone's had a chance to sit down and read it, right off at the beginning of it, where it very first starts, it talks about limiting, the effect it will have on limiting gun trafficking and illegal guns getting into the hands of criminals. Yet there are no studies that are conclusive to say that any background checks have any effect on that. And the fact is that the criminals, if they want to get the guns, they're going to get them. The only thing that this law is going to do is it's going to make it easier for or harder for law-abiding citizens to obtain self-defense, the ability to defend themselves. And it's going to enable the criminal element to have an advantage over law-abiding citizens that in many cases, in many places, they don't have yet at this point. If we're talking about Chicago or Washington, D.C. or New York, where they've got these really strict gun control laws, well, in these places, they already have this advantage. And look at the crime rate in those areas.
Yeah, how's that working out for them in these gun-free zones,
Well, it's not. It's not. The fact is that if the law-abiding citizens have this ability to be equal when they run up against criminals, then the criminals, it reduces the criminal element. You look at the areas where they have the least gun control in the United States, and those are the areas with the least crime rates.
Absolutely.
The lower crime. Those that have the highest gun control, like I said, Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., California, those areas all have high crime rates. And an interesting statistic is if you look at the crime rate in Chicago over the last year as opposed to the previous, 20 years before that, for the first time in Chicago, the crime rate actually dropped last year.
And that's
what was the difference?
Of the law that they passed. Now we have a right to conceal carry.
Correct. Now they have the right to conceal carry, although it's still difficult for them to exercise that right due to the laws they have there. The fact is that the law did change, I believe, actually reduced the crime because the criminals are more afraid to get out there and enact their crimes. Another statistic that is interesting is that when they did a survey of criminals in jail, they stated pretty much without any limitations that the one thing that they were afraid of when they were committing their crimes was the armed homeowner. That was the one thing that they were the most afraid of, is an armed homeowner. They weren't afraid of the police.
Yeah.
They weren't afraid of the police.
It takes like 30, 45 minutes or something to actually respond. Not to mention that every year, 2 million Americans use their firearm to defend themselves in some way. That's a Florida University study that I pulled off the internet. And, there's lots of other studies just like that all over the place. And the liberal progressive, movement, they want you to get emotionally, caught up in the fact that, tens of thousands of people are dying every year due to gun violence. But they also include in those numbers accidental discharges where people accidentally shot themselves or people that commit suicide to try to increase and skew those numbers. And, people that commit suicide, they're going to find another way. If they really are determined, they're still going to find another way. It just makes it a little bit easier. So in my opinion, I don't think you should count those numbers. And accidental discharges, I don't think you should count those either. That's not gun violence. And even if it was...
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Somewhere around 60% of those are suicides, those numbers. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% are suicides. And there have been additional studies that show that gun control do not reduce suicides. They might reduce gun suicides, but they don't reduce suicides. People will still find a way to commit suicide if they're going to.
Absolutely. And around here, you know just as well as I do, around here there's just a ton of bridges, we hear about people jumping off them all the time. I mean, and if you start banning, ways of getting to the bridge or walking on the bridge or anything, any possible thing, people, first of all, will ignore the law. If they're about ready to commit a crime, anyway, they're going to ignore the law. If they're going to kill themselves, they're going to ignore the law. They don't care about the repercussions of killing themselves, And even if you figure out how to stop them from killing themselves that way, they'll find another way. It's impossible to prevent somebody from killing themselves by removing every avenue for them to actually kill themselves. And instead, you need to address the actual problem. That's like addressing an issue where somebody has a knife wound in their chest, and you're trying to heal them. You're trying to fix them medically, but you're not addressing the fact that they're still being stabbed by the assailant as you're healing them. You're fixing the problems that result from the reason why they are having problems in the first place. You're not fixing anything. They're still getting stabbed.
No, until you get to the root of the problem, you're not going to fix it.
Absolutely.
And the root of the problem isn't the fact that we have guns. The root of the problem is that we have violent, mentally ill people that walk among us in society.
And we're not enforcing the laws on the books that we already have.
Yeah, this whole I-594, the whole background check thing, all of the background checks ever stop is law-abiding citizens. They make it more inconvenient for law-abiding citizens to obtain their, the tools which they need to defend themselves. They don't stop criminals. Criminals are going to find a way. They're going to find a way no matter what. And if people talk about, but we got all these mass killings and whatnot. Look back. Look at those mass killings. In almost every case, a background check would not have stopped them because they were and up until that point, they were law-abiding citizens.
And I absolutely agree with you. But also look at where they take place. They're in these gun-free zones where no one is allowed to have a gun on them. So these people are targeting these soft targets, and there's you don't see them going and attacking like an armory or a gun store or something, or even like a police department, because they know there's guns there and they don't want to go up against that. They're picking the softest, easiest targets they could pick.
Of course. That's because criminals, by nature, criminals, and a lot of people don't realize this, but by nature, criminals actually are cowards. If they have to go up against someone that is going to defend themselves, they will go the other way and they'll find someone that isn't going to defend themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, they'll find the path of least resistance.
Yep, and that's just, the same thing applies here, and that's why all these mass shootings and all these mass killings occur in these soft target areas, places where they know that they're not going to come up against someone that's going to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. So another interesting statistic that a lot of people don't know is they tell us about the worst mass shooting in history of the United States, but what they don't do is they don't talk about the worst mass killing in history in the United States in a school. And that worst mass killing in the United States in a school didn't involve firearms at all. It was a school administrator that had been fired or let go for some reason or another. I don't know the details of why it was. This was back I think it was 1937. Not exactly sure on the date, but he built homemade bombs and used these bombs in the school to kill people in the school. So it wasn't firearms used; it was bombs that he used. What that just tells us is that if people want to do these things, they're going to find a way to do them.
Yeah, I mean, we heard a news story right after one of these mass shootings. I can't remember when it was. It was a few months back, but we heard a news story where right after a mass shooting, there was a guy, I believe it was in China, that went into a school and did a mass stabbing. So if this kind of stuff can happen with a knife, it can happen with anything. I mean, they'll find a way to kill people in some way or another. And the only answer to a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, because these criminals realize that that's a hard target and they don't want to go after it. It's just, just look at the animal kingdom. It's simple. It's just as simple as the animal kingdom. A lion or for example, like a mountain lion, okay? they will not go after humans unless they're absolutely starving, because they look at that as a harder kill. Unless you're injured or you're looking very susceptible, they're not going to attack you, because they figure, hey, I could probably kill that thing, but I may get hurt in the process. So they do like a risk analysis of the situation, and they decide not to attack humans unless they don't have any other food options and they're starving, in which case, they have to eat, so they'll attack anything that moves at that point. But I mean, it's a very similar analogy to what goes on with criminals. They will not choose to attack a target that can defend itself. They'd much rather prefer to attack somebody who's vulnerable.
Always. That's statistics. That's the way that it is. They show that that's the way it is. I hate pointing to statistics, but that's what we have to do at this point. Because emotions don't work. Emotions, every single time when we look at emotions are going to, they're immediate. They're only in the moment. They don't look at history. They don't look at reality. They just look at how we feel right. They look at how we feel right now.
I see where you're coming from, and I agree with you in part. But I think that if the liberals want to play this emotional game, let's play the game, because the facts are on our side. I mean, we know that 2 million Americans every year defend themselves. So let's flip that around. Those 2 million Americans couldn't defend themselves. Now every year 2 million Americans are being killed because they weren't able to defend themselves. Why are we now worried about the few tens of thousands of people that are dying every year from gun violence? Now millions of Americans weren't able to save their lives, and defend themselves. That's emotional. That's an emotional cause. Let's get emotional about that. I'm upset about it that people want to take that away from people.
Well, we also have to look at those numbers that they're using too. Like we were discussing earlier, the suicides, they amount for like 60% of those. Of that other 40%, a very large portion of that are gang-related shootings, where criminals are shooting criminals. In neither case are they paying any attention to the laws. And no matter what laws we enact, they're not going to anyway. So once we eliminate those, we come down to the 10% or so of those numbers that are actually between criminals and law-abiding citizens. I don't know exactly how much it is, but it's certainly much lower than the numbers that they're showing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when they show those numbers, they're looking for that emotional reaction. They want that emotional reaction.
Well, let's meet that emotional reaction with our own. Because we know that they don't have facts on their side. They have to play the emotional game. Let's play it with them. Why not? I don't. If you want to get emotional, I'll get emotional with you, and we'll talk about things, and I'll give you reasons why you should get emotional. But I'll also give you facts, and that's where I'll win. You can't. Liberals can't win in a straight up intelligent debate, an argument where it's fact based and it's not based on just emotional things. They can't win if you're bringing facts into the equation.
They don't let facts or they don't let facts get in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, Rick,
every time facts are involved, they start pulling race card and other things like that. So
absolutely, yeah, and I totally agree with you on that. But hey, I got to cut to a quick commercial break. Rick, I'm really enjoying your conversation. Do you want to stay with me for another few minutes before I wrap everything up?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to put you on hold 1 second. We're going to cut to a commercial break. I'll be back in about 1:30.
Support On the Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags. keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. When we last left, I had Rick Halley on the show. And Rick, are you still there?
I am.
Alrighty. Hey, before we get back into the conversation we were talking about gun control. And just in case anybody else is out there and would like to pipe in, the phone number is 619-924-0986. Again, that is 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. Rick, before we get into the gun control conversation we were talking about just a minute ago, I know you have some things going on. You're with some organizations, and I'm part of some of your organizations that you're with. I'd like to give you a moment to plug everything that you got going on right now. Feel free. The floor is yours.
Sure. I lead a national group called Free Voices United. We're a conservative group, and we're working. I actually help out with standforliberty.org and We the People Stand United as well. And we basically work in three areas. First, we work on the local area, trying to pick the right people that are constitutional patriots to get them into offices so that we're getting legislation that is constitutional as opposed to this gun control legislation, whatnot that goes against our Constitution. We're trying to get people in there that are going to enact constitutional legislation for us. So we're working at the local level with Free Voices United. Stand for Liberty they're the folks that get out there right in front of the people, trying to let them know that they need to speak up, that they need to stand up. Stand for liberty. They need to stand up and speak up to make sure that they're heard. And then We the People Stand United is a page that's associated with Recall Congress, being the group that is working on on Congress to get the people out of office there that are going against our Constitution and get people into office that are for our Constitution. As we all, at least most of us that are going to be listening on the show know, a lot of our people and a lot of our leaders in Congress, they don't pay any attention to that oath. Mm-hmm. That oath says that they're there to uphold and defend the Constitution, yet the legislation that they vote for doesn't bear out that oath. It goes against that oath. And and so we need to get those people in there that are going to follow that oath. So they're working directly at that level. So we're trying to work at all the levels, right with the people, with the local government, and then with the federal government at all three levels. We're trying to work at all three levels to enact changes to get back to constitutional values, to get back to family values, to get back to ethics and integrity and morals regarding our laws and legislation. So, all right. Free Voices United, standforliberty.org, and then We the People Stand United. And then I also, of course, we're talking about the gun control stuff here. That's, I work with the Open Carry group here. And then Gun Rights Across America, I help them out. And then I help out the local Republican Party, which is a fairly conservative, they're when you compare Republican parties across the nation, I have to say that we have one of the most conservative, most constitutional-minded parties for a local area of any in this area. So I help them out from time to time as well, especially if I see a candidate that actually is constitutional. So, all right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So I have about another 2 minutes or so for you. If you want to talk about, I know you're starting your own internet podcast, similar to what I'm doing. If you'd like to talk about that for a second and maybe plug the address, I don't know if you have an address or it already set up or anything, or website information. Feel free.
It is set up. I'll be getting a link up to it at freevoicesunited.com. I'll make sure that there's a link to it. It is Blog Talk Radio /Free Voices United, and it is set up there. I don't have the first show scheduled yet, but the account is set up and we're ready to go there. At this point, I'm just working with the group, because really the group is their group. It's not my group, it's their group. It's a group of people, and therefore it's their group. So I'm getting their input first to see what they want to discuss before I actually open it up and start the broadcast.
Awesome.
When I do, then they get to decide what we talk about and what we discuss. So, and I expect to have the first show probably in about a week.
Okay.
So
well, get a hold of me, Rick. Let me know if there's anything at all that I can do to help you guys. And if you would like me to be on the show, or you want me to call in or something, just let me know. I'll gladly help you guys out, and I'll plug you guys on my show and everything. And anything I can do, just let me know.
Certainly.
All right.
I'm sure at some point I'll have you as a guest on there, and I'm not sure if it'll be on the first show or not. We haven't even decided what it's going to be on yet. But I'm planning to do this at least once a week, perhaps maybe 2 or 3 times a week, depending on how well it goes. And it's one way for us to get our voices heard, which is what Free Voices United is all about. We want to get our voices heard.
Absolutely, that's the way to do it.
Oh.
Well, I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and like I said, I'm a member of Free Voices United. I suggest you guys become members. Find them on Facebook. Go to their website. Join this organization. They're doing some really great things. And I got to say, Rick, you're one of you're a man that I know that has the most integrity of a lot of people that I've met. I can't name anybody off the top of my mind that has more integrity than you. I know that the controversy, we won't get into it as far as what happened with the overpasses for impeachment and everything, but Rick, this guy is a stand-up guy, and I value his opinion, and I think you guys should check out his stuff. And join Free Voices United. They're doing big things. It's not just here in Washington, but it's nationally. It's on a national level. Get involved. Get active. Get out there, get on the move. So anyway, Rick, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show and everything. And I appreciate you calling in.
Certainly. Enjoyed being on the show.
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Take care, buddy. All right. So at this point, we're going to wrap up the show. I got a few other things that I'd like to talk about, and there's a few other clips that I'd like to mention. One thing that I'd actually like to discuss here is actually the things that have been being said by our leaders. We have Chuck Schumer that's been talking about the Tea Party and how the Tea Party is basically been hijacked by the plutocrats. And if you don't know what a plutocrat is a member of plutocracy. That's what it is, plutocracy. I had trouble with the word. Anyway, and a plutocracy basically is a government or an organization that's ran by the wealthy. So here's what he had to say on it. It's a quick clip.
Weakness. One very weak link in the Tea Party's armor, which is an inherent contradiction within the Tea Party that I believe can be exposed to greatly weaken their hold on the policy debate. The fundamental weakness in the Tea Party machine is the stark difference between what the leaders of the Tea Party elite, plutocrats like the Koch brothers, want, and what the average grassroots Tea Party follower wants. To the plutocrats and their allies, government is indeed the enemy. These people are wealthy, hard right, narrow, people who don't want to pay taxes and don't want government interfering with their companies no matter what damage their companies may do to their workers or to the environment or to anybody else. These are the people who say, I created my business all by myself. How dare your government tell me what to do with it? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government try to take it away in taxes? To them, government is truly the enemy. Take government away, there'll be lower taxes, less regulation, and they, though certainly not America, will benefit. Of course, the plutocrats and their friends never acknowledge where government helped them. Government paved the roads and built the airports so they can ship their products. Government educated the workers to make their companies run and purchase their products. Government protected their rule of law and protected their physical and intellectual property so they could profit from their products. However, in the Tea Party elite's almost fanatical desire to reduce taxes and regulation on their companies, they conveniently ignore these facts. Now, I'm not saying they didn't build it. I'm saying they were able to build it because the society in which they operated was designed to foster such an entrepreneurial spirit, and that fact is lost on the Tea Party elites.
This is hilarious. This to me just shows a stark difference between what everyday Americans think and what Chuck Schumer thinks. All right, first of all, there are certain situations where corporate entities have kind of hijacked the Tea Party in certain areas. One area, we had him on the show, Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant. He was talking about how Oregon had a actual coup, basically, with inside the Tea Party, and it's been taken over by corporate interest. I don't have a lot of information on that, but I know it has happened. Okay, here's the thing about the difference from what Chuck says and what reality is. Okay, Chuck, he thinks that the government is the only way that we could build roads. Every program that's out there in existence right now is there because it's everything that we have that could have possibly or could not have possibly been done without the government, according to Chuck. Okay, this to me is hilarious. Ask yourself everything that the government does. Okay, with the exception, and I'll give it to them, protecting us. All right, the military. All right, standing armies, and I'm not going to get into the constitutionality of that. We actually discussed that in the constitutional study group as far as the constitutionality of a standing army. Check out the video at youtube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and it'll be on there at some point this week. So, anyway, they defend us. And they establish trade agreements between the states, and that's great. The federal government is great for those two things. All right. But what I have an issue with is when you go down the line of everything that the government does, and you ask, can we do that without the government? The answer is always unequivocally yes. Can we build roads without the government? Yes. We can build roads. A private company could build a road, absolutely no problem, and you can make it for profit, and that's possible. Do we need a centralized government to do that? Absolutely not. States can handle that on themselves. I understand reasons why, we tax for roads and tax on gasoline and certain things like that. I can get how certain things are, and I'm not going to get into that. We only have 3 minutes left in the show. But we can build roads without a centralized federal government absorbing and usurping power to basically create this totalitarian government where it tells us everything that we can do in our life. We can survive and make roads without a central federal government. The states can handle that. We can provide for our education without that. We can provide protection for the environment without a big federal government such as the EPA. The free market could have thrived by itself without government involvement. And who's to say what would have happened? Because we don't know. The government got in the way. The government created policies that restricted our actual economy. So who's to say? Anyway, we can do things without the government. Don't be fooled. Don't let this person tell you that you can't do anything. Don't let this person tell you that you didn't build your company, that the government built it, and they're the ones that are responsible, and they're the ones that should get the credit. I believe in you. I believe in your entrepreneurial drive and your motivation. I believe in you. We at On The Move Show believe in you. We believe in your ability to do everything you can to better your life. And with these kind of motivational things, that's what we need. Anyway, If you want to join the conversation on the next show, the phone number is 619-924-0986. Again, 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com and let us know what you have to say. That's the show for today. I want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in every week, and I appreciate everybody who called in today. The voice of reason, Rick Howley, I appreciate it. Make sure you check out their stuff. Don't forget to check out our website at onthemoveshow.com, here at blogtalkradio.com/onthemoveshow, facebook.com/onthemoveshow, youtube.com/onthemoveshow, and twitter.com/onthemoveshow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.